We finally had the United States Supreme Court act on one of these many cases involving President Trump and his executive orders. There have been, I think, over 30 or maybe even 40 or more cases now where libs, Dems, progressives are trying to stop President Trump from basically being the president. We finally got the Chief Justice Roberts. He did something on this case where he stayed this district judge's ruling where he was trying to force, this district court judge was basically trying to force President Trump and the government to release $2 billion in foreign aid, like basically this judge was the Secretary of State. I don't know if we should call him Judge Ali or Secretary of State Ali, or does he prefer President Ali? Clearly this guy thinks he's a lot more than just a district judge, but luckily his ruling was stayed, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that case, and I might try to make a prediction at the end, which is going to be completely worthless, but you should stick around because it will be fun, kind of. Anyway, this is the caption for the case. I usually see this referred to as the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition versus the U.S. Department of State. Also, we've got the President Trump versus Global Health Council. I think there are a number of different applicants in the caption, but this is the case where Chief Justice Roberts stepped in. One of the crazy facts about this case was that the judge actually ordered the government to release this $2 billion in 36 hours, which is insane. That's an incredible demand on spending that kind of money. I mean, this judge probably gets on the phone for an hour to dispute a $5 late fee on something that he bought, but yet he's expecting the government to shell out $2 billion in 36 hours. Like, the government can't spend money without wasting it when they have a year to decide what to do. So 36 hours, that's crazy. So just a little background, the NGO sued the administration arguing that the foreign aid freeze endangered their operations, and that freeze was put on by President Trump. The administration had paused the aid to review alignment with the U.S. interests. So basically, President Trump said, hey, let's pause these so that we can review them and make sure that we're spending money wisely. And the NGO said, we can't have that. That can't possibly happen. Give it to us now. You can interpret that however you will, but I don't think it's good. Here are the timeline of events involved in this case. I thought it might be helpful for you to at least see what dates we're talking about. So this all started on January 20th when President Trump issued an executive order that paused foreign aid. Then on February 1st, the NGO sued. February 13th is when Judge Ali issued a TRO blocking Trump's order. Then on February 24th, that's when Judge Ali ordered $2 billion to be paid by February 26th at 11:59 p.m. That's when he gave them 36 hours to spend $2 billion, to release the $2 billion. It takes them 6 months for the government to mail you a passport, but why don't you spend $2 billion in 36 hours? Insane. Then February 26th, that's when the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals denied the appeal, and we're going to briefly talk about that. And on February 26th, late in the evening Eastern Time, the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts issued the administrative stay. So that's basically the timeline of events that we're looking at. I just can't express how reckless it is for a judge to try to force the government to spend $2 billion in 36 hours. Congress isn't even that reckless, and that's saying something. Now, we should at least talk about the legal standard for issuing the temporary restraining order. I have mentioned this in my other presentations about these cases, but that was what the court was having to look at, was whether these NGOs should get a TRO. Do you like all these acronyms? Whether the NGOs should get the TRO. But let's just go over that briefly, and then we'll apply the facts to this particular case. But for the TRO, the district court, Judge Ali, should have found a likelihood of success on the merits, irreparable harm in the absence of relief, all of these. He needs to find all of these to grant a TRO. The balance of the equities favors the moving party, and the public interest supports the injunction. So that's the standard for getting a TRO, and the judge needs to find all of those. Okay, First, I'm going to generally tell you what I thought was wrong with the district court's ruling, and then we will apply that to the TRO standard to say why I don't think the TRO should have been granted. So here's what I think was wrong with the district court's ruling. First, it violated sovereign immunity. The government cannot be sued to make payments unless it waived sovereign immunity, which it did not. So that was one reason why the district court was wrong. Also, the court ignored the Tucker Act and the Contract Disputes Act that requires claims to be filed in the Court of Federal Claims. So these two statutes written by Congress require claims like this to be filed in the Court of Federal Claims. And this was not. This was filed in a district court. So it was in the wrong court. So that was another reason why the district court was wrong. And another weird thing about this is that the Judge Ali, forced payments to organizations that were not part of the lawsuit, if you can believe that, which is just bonkers. It's kind of like suing your landlord for a leaky faucet, and then during the proceeding, the judge orders you to buy your neighbor a new dishwasher. Would you like to know why the judge was wrong on issuing the TRO? Let me just give you a few reasons. Okay, so looking back at the standard for issuing the TRO, likelihood of success on the merits. No, there's no likelihood of success on the merits because they're in the wrong court. Okay, it should be in the Court of Federal Claims. So wrong court. And then the second prong, irreparable harm in the absence of relief. No, the government was actually processing payments. They were just doing it slower so that they could review them. So they had slowed it down, but the payments were being processed, just not fast enough for Judge Ali, I guess. But that is not irreparable harm. The third test, balance of equities favors the moving party. No, the government faced a far greater harm. Are you kidding me? Spending $2 billion in 36 hours with no way to do any kind of checking, all sorts of possible fraud and other issues that can't get into here, but I'm sure you've seen Doge talking about this, but clearly the greater harm is going to be on the government side, hurting them, not on these NGOs who are just waiting for money for doing nothing, basically. And for the public interest, which kind of goes along with balancing the equities, but the public interest supports the injunction. No, it does not. The public interest, the public is the taxpayers. We are the public. You'd be flushing taxpayer money down the toilet because you would be sending it out without being able to check what's happening to it. Is this in our interest or not? So clearly, that's not in their favor either. So I think the judge was wrong on all four counts, but somehow the judge found all four in favor of the NGOs. So I guess it's kind of like, when a mother judges her child's art in an art contest. Even though it's terrible, she's like, it's amazing. That's basically what happened. So maybe a little bit more broadly, here are some concerns that I think come from this district court judge's decision. So not just specifically to the TRO procedural context, but more broadly, some legal and constitutional concerns are sovereign immunity. The courts cannot force the government to make payments outside of the Court of Federal Claims because that violates sovereign immunity. Separation of powers. Judge Ali usurped executive authority over foreign aid. Everything foreign is clearly in the power of the executive. That's pretty clearly established. And then practicality. The rushed order bypassed fraud checks, risking massive financial losses. And just as a practical matter, that's so stupid. So in this district court judge's mind, Judge Ali, I think he thinks the three branches of government are me, myself, and I. I'm not saying that he has a God complex, but he does require that all of his orders go out on stone tablets like the Ten Commandments. So after that ruling from the district court judge, the government did try to appeal this to the appeals court, the D.C. Circuit. And the D.C. Circuit wrongly claimed that they lacked jurisdiction over TROs. So they didn't do anything. They basically said, we don't have jurisdiction over TROs, so we can't do anything here. Now, the Supreme Court stay proves that the order was reviewable, so the D.C. Circuit was wrong on that. And legal precedent confirms that TROs can be appealed under Sampson v. Murray. Basically, it says that you can review a TRO if it effectively is a preliminary injunction, meaning you can't undo some stuff that happens because of it. I mean, a temporary restraining order, the word temporary means whatever's happening is temporary. There isn't going to be any kind of permanent damage that you can't fix, which clearly sending out $2 billion in, international payments is going to be really hard to undo. Calling a $2 billion international wire payment temporary is like calling the Grand Canyon a small ditch. Okay, it's a little off. Now the 3 judges on the panel in the DC Circuit were appointed by Obama and Biden. So, that's like, playing an away game and the referees have on the jerseys of the other team. You already know, we're screwed. So I'm sure the government knew they were screwed anyway, but still, very lame of the DC Circuit. So when the government did not get a favorable ruling back from the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, they then filed the emergency application with the United States Supreme Court. They were arguing that Judge Ali's order ignored sovereign immunity and that they were already processing legitimate payments, just not fast enough for Judge Ali, His Highness. And they also said that compliance in 36 hours was impossible. So they filed their emergency application with the United States Supreme Court. And I am sure that the lower court judges were probably sitting on pins and needles just hoping that the Supreme Court didn't do anything, because if they did, it was a clear sign that they were all wrong. I'm sure when the district court judge and the DC Circuit found out that the Supreme Court issued the stay, it was kind of like the look on kids' faces who just got called to the principal's office, right? We didn't do any of that with a photocopier, we promise. That doesn't even look like my butt. So Chief Justice Roberts issued the stay, staying the district court judge's order. And I think this stay confirms that Judge Ali's ruling was improper, because I don't think Chief Justice Roberts would have issued that stay if he didn't see a problem with it. And it also confirms that the DC Court of Appeals was incorrect. Now, so you did have all 4 of those judges were all hardcore Democrats for sure, right? The district court judge appointed by Biden, and then the DC Circuit appointed by Biden and Obama. So I'm sure when they were looking at the test for a TRO or whether to review it, basically they were looking at the what would Trump not want us to do test, which shouldn't you be required to just recuse yourself? I mean, if you've got TDS that bad, how can you get 4 judges, all of them got it wrong? And I just think it was so clearly wrong, too. Come on. What are the possible outcomes? Let's take a look at that for a minute. Chief Justice Roberts, he could rule alone, or he could refer the case to the full Supreme Court. This is where I might make some predictions, and I shouldn't, because if I'm wrong, it will be forever in a video and I'll look like an idiot. But I think Chief Justice Roberts is going to refer this to the full court, because we've had, 30 or 40 of these cases, that probably even more than that, all trying to stop President Trump's agenda and of executive orders, trying to implement his policies and what he's trying to do as president. And I would hope that the Supreme Court will say, look, basically we have these progressive leftist judges who are neutralizing the executive branch. I mean, President Trump has 4 years. If he's tied up for 4 years litigating, he wasn't the president. So I hope, I'm going to predict that Chief Justice Roberts will refer this to the full court so that we can get some kind of ruling from the full court on this. On the different things they could do. One, the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, could vacate Judge Ali's order so the Trump administration wins. No foreign aid disbursement. That's one possible outcome. Another one, SCOTUS could extend the stay for further review, have a full hearing, and take weeks or months to issue a ruling, kind of extending this whole thing to really dig into it. Or 3, SCOTUS could deny the stay and have the Trump administration have to immediately release the $2 billion. I really doubt number 3 is going to happen because I don't think he would have issued the stay in the first place if he didn't see a problem with it. So I hope that it's going to be either 1 or 2. And the Supreme Court, they're always going to be issuing a very, very narrow ruling, just because that's how they are. They don't try to have some broad ruling that's going to be applied across the board in all sorts of areas. So I think it's going to be some very narrow ruling or holding. But I do think that Chief Justice Roberts, even though I've read that he doesn't like President Trump, I think he will understand that there's a problem right now with progressive judges trying to nullify the executive branch. And we have to try to give some guidance to stop some of these district court judges from just going ham on trying to stop President Trump. Okay? A lot of these district court judges shouldn't be judges at all. They should be in some support group trying to get over their TDS, obviously. But so, I mean, the earliest we could see something issue on this, I mean, it could be the first week of March. I mean, that's possible. But if he gets the full court involved and they ask for a hearing, I think that's going to extend it a little bit into weeks. I don't think it would be months. My opinion as a comedian attorney would be, I know you really want to know, but so I think the earliest would be maybe that first week of March, but it could take longer. So let's hope they do the right thing and they try to clear the way a little bit so that President Trump can actually do his job. All right, thank you for watching this video, and also thanks for watching my headlines and YouTube shorts. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.